Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where in the real world you are. My name is Adrian Dellecker. I'm a political scientist by training, but I've always been passionate about the environment. And I've been in the nature conservation sector for 13 years. I was head of policy and advocacy at WWF International, trying to influence international agreements on climate change, biodiversity, and sustainable development. I moved on to becoming head of program and then head of strategy and development at the Luc Hoffmann Institute, which acts at the frontier of social innovation as an incubator for the nonprofit environmental sector. I've recently set out to co-found my own venture, which aspires to make the impact NFT sector more transparent, effective, and accessible. I'm completely dedicated to the environmental cause, and I'm not about to run out of work. In fact, we're facing serious challenges in nature conservation. We are heading for a world of plus 3 degrees Celsius, when we know that 1.5 degrees Celsius from climate change is the maximum we can tolerate without massive disruption. A world in which we've lost 70% of species in the past 60 years, and where 1 million more are at risk of becoming extinct in the next 10 years. A world which dramatically underinvests in nature, spending an estimated $800 billion less every year than what is needed to regenerate our planet. We must urgently reverse this if humans are to thrive on our own planet. This is not just a question of morals. This is a question of survival. But there is another side to the story, a more positive side. Research shows that people care. 1.1 billion people 16 years old and over have a stated interest in wildlife and nature. More importantly, the younger emerging generation care even more. Global surveys of new generations show consistent and growing concern for climate change, natural resource management, and biodiversity as the top priority above war and conflict and above inequality. New generations value impact more than the previous generations and are willing to give to charity more than their parents. But it comes with a twist. In return, the younger generation also seeks greater transparency and the direct, hands-on experience when giving or investing. So the situation is this. If you, like 1.1 billion other people, care about the planet and our role in it, what can you do? Where can you devote your energy? What can you support financially? The landscape is dominated by large international organizations, INGOs. The reality is, you don't have much choice, especially when it comes to financing conservation or investing in a sustainable future. You can give to an NGO or face the tedious task of finding a local organization yourself that can convince you of its impact. INGOs are currently the primary actors for people to support conservation organizations. This reality is reflected in the numbers. Over half the budget of the top 15 INGOs, environmental INGOs, is made up of individual giving. Every year, people give over $1.7 billion to the top 15 environmental INGOs. In other words, people are entirely dependent on INGOs, and INGOs are entirely dependent on individuals. This is not a space that favors innovation. And indeed, the means by which INGOs engage their audiences has barely changed in the past several decades. We are still in what I call read-only conservation, where information flows only in one direction. When you give to charity, at best you're symbolically adopting an animal. You get a plush toy, a tote bag, maybe an occasional postcard or magazine, and soon a request for more funds. If conservation is to modernize itself, it needs to not only upgrade its communication, it needs to fundamentally shift from a read-only mentality to a read-write mentality. It needs to be more open to people's inputs and concerns. It needs to empower people with solutions. This is, in my opinion, a key pain point for conservation INGOs in the coming years. If they do not address this, they risk becoming obsolete. For individuals who care, and there are over 1 billion of us, the expectation is that our voice will be heard. We don't want plush toys or bags, calendars or postcards. We want new narratives. We want positive stories. We want empowerment. We want change. The risk is not so much that INGOs lose money for the cause. The risk is that this new generation that cares so much becomes disillusioned with the current solutions and turns its back entirely. And this is where blockchain comes in, and why I'm devoting all of my time to it now, after 13 years employed in the nature conservation sector. First, blockchain is a story of empowerment over disillusion, of self-sovereignty over centralized control, of community decisions over top-down leadership. This is important to spin the narrative around, to move from a tale of despair to one of hope. It is also a means to challenge large central actors to become more innovative. Second, blockchain is transparent. Distributed ledgers allow anyone to look into the accounts of impact projects or charities. It allows people to decide for themselves what impact they want to have and whether that impact is real. Thirdly, blockchain has created an entirely new means of attributing and exchanging value. This is massively exciting because this is something the conservation sector has struggled to do for decades. We are good at assigning monetary values to what we call ecosystem services, clean air, water, carbon sequestration, etc. But we have not really been able to capture this. Blockchain, and tokens in particular, offer an entirely new way to assign value by giving people the power to decide how much impact is worth. This is why recently I launched TLDR.Earth. Our vision is to create a one-stop shop for people to assess and invest in various blockchain impact projects that contribute to the conservation sector. We've been inspired and energized by the impact NFT sector. Tiger Chi on Algorand is one such story. NFT art going to save the majestic tigers and building entirely new communities around shared visions. Another of my favorites is called Belugies. It was created by a 14-year-old artist and has raised over $400,000 for ocean conservation. There's also one called Fishy Fam, which has a community of 75,000 people on Discord and organizes beach cleanups in real life. These are not just inspirational stories. They are potentially rival business models to traditional conservation organizations. But many other projects are less transparent, and even with the best of intentions, the current standards for best practices don't exist. For example, the buyers of impact NFTs must still rely on a third party to deliver the charity. And mostly this is done via fiat currency bank transfers. Soon, it is easy to imagine NFT projects will need to have charity recipients coded into their smart contracts from the outset. This means also that charities themselves will need their own crypto wallets. This is still far from being the norm, with many charities still hesitant to dip their toes in this space. TLDR's mission is to accelerate this shift. We want to become an impact dashboard to create a massive, vibrant community of like-minded investors in nature and tell stories of impact. We aim to be multi-chain, which comes with its set of challenges, but we believe impact should be measured beyond individual blockchains. We want to track a project's financial impact, for example, how much is going to local charities and who is giving what. But we also want to track the energy of a project's community, its in-real-life activities, and other impact data so that people can make more informed decisions about their nature investments. We also think this needs to be fun, community-motivated, and positive to inspire collaboration. We want to give traditional NGOs a run for their money and generally energize the conservation sector with stories of empowerment. How cool would it be to have a dashboard of your impact, to socialize this impact, to compete and collaborate with others to magnify your impact, all while earning great-looking digital badges of your work, cool-looking NFTs, and building up your digital reputation in the digital age, in the age of blockchain. We want people to be empowered, to be active, to support and encourage others to support. We believe this is possible and that together we can reverse past trends and make the world a better place. If you believe in this vision, we want to hear from you. Well, I'm happy to engage. Thank you for having me today, and I look forward to discussions further later.